Hello, welcome back to our astrology study group. And I think the biggest theme that we have going on now, and it's a good review of planets anyway, is Mars about to go retrograde. It is the almost like the third week in October, actually October 18th, 2022. And we'll talk a little bit about retrograde Mars, the Mars cycle. Um, yeah, yeah, and then go from there. So you're looking at here is a page from Cafe Astrology, and this is, let's see, it goes all the way up to, I'll just take it at top. Okay, Cafe Astrology, Mars retrograde dates. And what does it say here? Well, we'll go into this in just a second. But Mars retrograde dates and times from 1920 to 2050. And I just want you to look at this for a moment. I'm going to go to more present time. So let me scroll forward a bit. And I just thought it was interesting. Like right now, I'm going to just point out before we get into what all this means, but just to give you, and then I'm going to leave it here and give you something to look at for a few minutes because there's a lot to talk about with this. This is kind of cool. All right, so we have it going retrograde about every 2 years, as you can see. And we'll get into it cycle in a moment, but just check this out. Here we are at 20, it's going to go retrograde on the 30th. And when we go look at the charts, you'll see that it's almost stationary. It's like 24 degrees, it's 24, 24, and then it'll barely go into 25 degrees Gemini. If you don't remember, it went into Gemini in August. And so we started barreling through Mars, that busy, energy, courageous, forward moving, fireball, your energy, your drive, your projects, what you want to do, goes into busy Gemini. And, those two are sextile, right? They're naturally, two signs away from each other. So they're both masculine signs or outward moving, manifesting kind of signs. And that just kind of intensifies it. So you've got, the fire of Mars and the wind or, the air element of Gemini. So we've got fanning the flames. So fanning the flames, that's basically what it means. So when I like to think about it, when Mars goes into Gemini, that it just gets encouraged. It gets, that wind element, that breeziness, that dual nature of Gemini just gets, that it takes off. So when Mars goes retrograde, it slows down. The energy, reverses, but it's in Gemini. So how does it slow down? We're going to look at that and see what that really means. But just check this out while I'm looking. I'm going to fill you in a little bit on some background of this. But think back into your life at these different times. It's like every 2 years it goes retrograde, and for about 7 weeks. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that it is going to be in this sign for about 7 months. So it's quite a long time being in Gemini. All right. So let's see, where do we want to start here with you? All right. We remembered that it rules, Mars rules courage, conflict, combat, drive, ambition, and sexuality. It has strong ties to your ego and overall sense of pride, making it one of the first planets to kick in gear whenever you feel threatened or attacked. In your birth chart, your natal chart, Mars describes the way you express anger, passion, and desire. It has an influence on the way you react when someone insults you. If your Mars is an impulsive and assertive Aries, you might just call them out immediately without a second thought. Like, who you looking at? What are you talking about? Who are you talking to? What you say? However, if your Mars is in a balanced, diplomatic, conflict averse Libra, you might react in a way that feels more avoidant and courteous to the offender's feelings Excuse me, get off my foot before I smack you in the face squarely. Maybe something like that. Uh, so whenever Mars enters a new sign, it shifts the tone of everybody's impulses. So in a way now, we're a bit more impulsive. We're a bit more impulsive in our speech, right? Because Gemini, we might be a bit more mouthy. Okay, so it alters the way we as a collective experience anger and treat our pride. It influences the way we connect with each other on a more primal and carnal level. It changes the way that we go after our goals. All right, so Mars entered Gemini on August 20th. Yeah, I knew it was August, about the end of it. And that's a pretty big deal. After all, Mars isn't staying in Gemini for courtesy. For the it's staying longer than its normal 6 to 7 week time. Basically, it'll stay in there for a whopping 7 months. Okay. What else did I want to see here? Gemini, you already know that that's about communication and connection. We talked a little bit about it. It's clever, intelligent. Mercury rules the sign, and it's always asking questions and trying to learn about lots of different subjects. So this makes Mars and Gemini a powerful time to dive into your studies, write that novel you've been dreaming of, socialize with your friends, getting that energy, maybe, excuse me, energy behind the thought, think out the plans, get them in gear. But then when we go retrograde, you got to, use it like a Mercury retro time. It's like, all right, I'm not going to be high gear the whole time. You can't be, adrenalized the whole time. It's the time to reassess things. So, however, Mars in Gemini will encourage us to consume a lot more information than we can keep up with. It will also pave the way for gossip. Of course, gossip's always not a good thing, but you can just see how the energy behind verbs and verbiage could get out of hand. So miscommunications we have to look at, could look forward to, could lead to rumors, especially if certain details are taken out of context. I'd say we have to really watch that in the news, with so many things. It's already kind of starting to happen. All right. So, what you say has the power to travel far. So make sure that you're saying what you mean and meaning what you say, because Mars will also station, it is what we're talking about in Gemini, and it's going to lead to some kind of damning revelations because it's, getting really slow. And that's what's interesting right now because it's slowing down. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. And we'll look at this when we go into the charts, but whenever a planet is going either, retrograde or direct, it's slowing down, right? It's getting, you'll see it in the same degree for a long time. So right now, Mars is again about to retrograde. About to retrograde, and then Saturn is also slowing down. Saturn is going to go direct this Saturday. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that. So I'm sorry, I was distracted over here. I'm sorry. So we have two planets, two of the heavy kind of hitters, the malefics, slowing down. And that means they're getting a bit more intense if they're slowing down, and they're at that energy. So they're being more focused. So we have more Mars type of focus, and we have more Saturn type of focus right now, which is intense. So that could also be, with Mars in Gemini, and then Saturn in Aquarius slowing down, with the Aquarius being kind of the other side of Mars, the other sextile side of Mars instead of Gemini on one side. I'm thinking of the ruler of Mars. So we're kind of uniting a lot of things. So my thought is that its relationship with Saturn, and Saturn kind of slowing down right now, maybe is bringing in good authority. And I really like to hope that, good authority. It's like people are waking up to a lot of truths. This is kind of my thought on that. Reality and seeing through all the lies is seeming to become way more in the norm than ever. It's not things aren't conspiracy anymore. They're fact. It's like the wake up has happened. And I think it's just going to get more intense with that. All right, what else is on this one I have share with you? Of all the planets that have an important influence on your personality, Mars moves at a slightly slower speed, taking around 6 to 7 weeks to complete its journey through a zodiac sign. So the planet of drive, passion, and aggression influences the energetic tone over a longer period of time, making the zodiac sign it's moving through that much more meaningful. So just think about where that Gemini is in your chart. And because Gemini is one of the most infamous and mischievous signs in all of zodiac, this transit is bound to rock your world. Your experience with this year's Mars and Gemini will be more memorable than you could probably ever imagine. So when Mars is moving through Taurus, just recently, got to just refresh memory on that one. That's where that's the sign of its debilitation. Mars doesn't like to be there. It's sleepy, slow, stagnant, forcing you to pause. So now that Mars has moved into the zany, chipper, and clever Gemini, you're about to flip on, or we have been flipping on that switch to take full advantage of our brain power. But it's going retrograde right now. So we have to, it's the roller coaster ride, kind of up and down, up and down. All right, let me get you to see, let's see. Here we go. All right, I'm going to get a new share. We can look at this one. This is the one I want for you. Yep. Okay. A little bit about Mars retrograde. The Earth and Mars are on these roughly circular paths around the sun, like cars on a racetrack. Earth is on the inner faster track, About every 26 months, we overtake Mars, which is moving slower in its orbit. During that period, when we're passing Mars and before we round the bend in our orbit to pull away from it, we see Mars in retrograde, appearing to change direction, even though it's still moving forward in its own orbit. This is this optical illusion. So take note of Mars over the next few months as it appears to reverse course. Note how its position changes with respect to Betelgeuse, Aldebaran, and the Pleiades over the weeks, and you'll be witnessing what was once a source of intense curiosity for astronomers, but which we now know is just a sign of two planets passing in the night. When Mars begins its biannual retrograde, that means every 2 years it goes its retrograde, where Mercury, we know, goes every 3 months, Mars goes every 2 years. Emotions are heightened. People are more prone to outbursts, which can create upsets in relationships. This is your opportunity to reassess how you can better expend your time, energy, and more importantly, how you can cooperate with others. In astrology, nothing is more strange or stressful or confusing than a planetary retrograde. Okay. When a planet begins the apparent backwardness in its orbit, from our perspective here, it takes us back in time. As we trip through the past, a retrograde encourages us to solve lingering problems and tie off loose ends. But when a retrograde planet takes place in a planet as fierce as Mars, it's bound to be an intense experience. This is the planet of combat, war, and aggression, as Mars governs the way you process anger and act on your impulses. Mars is also the planet of sex, primal instincts, ambition, and passion, driving you straight toward whatever it wants that you desire. Mars describes a part of you that is the pursuer, a hunter, because whatever Mars wants, Mars gets. Remember, where it is in your chart is how Mars gets what it wants, and how it's dressed. Is it dressed, in fiery Aries? Is it dressed as a warrior? Is it dressed in earthy Taurus? A little bit more laid back. Is it dressed in real busy Gemini? Is it dressed in home and family, loving Cancer? Okay, so Mars retrograde takes place around every 26 months, and it lasts around 72 days. Okay, making it both the rarest retrograde and, in my opinion, the most exhausting. Because Mars governs your strength and vitality, this retrograde has a way of making you feel like you've lost your mojo. Or, or it could be just like you might be slowing down. You might be like, God, I've been just like go, 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 go. I've got to just like, reassess my energies and how I expend it. However, the silver lining of this transit is that it gives us a chance to slow down, work through ego trips and learn from our failures. In a society that wants us to keep going and stay on 24/7, right? The exhaustion of Mars retrograde can often feel like a tough break. Although, as a result, it reminds us that we're worth so much more than our valor and productivity. All right, so I did not like these here. All right, let me go over here. This was good. I found this little bit here, Mars retrograde, the cosmic chill pill, the benefit of slowing down by Maria de Simone. Okay, she says here, we just said this. Okay, every 2 years, the planet that rules our motivation and ambition turns retrograde for about 2.5 month stretch. On October 30th, it goes retrograde in Gemini and will remain backpedaling until January 12th, 2023. That's when it goes direct. And it'll still be in Gemini, though, until I think March or April. We'll look at. So since Mars is the planet of initiation, you must have strong and direct Mars if you ever wanted to succeed in any endeavor. This is why astrologers advise against starting vital projects during this retrograde phase. The oomph factor is missing or lessened somehow when Mars is retrograde. Often we feel a sense of frustration during Mars retrograde because we want to press forward in certain areas of our lives, but feel as if our efforts to progress are futile. The universe demands that we fortify what's happening in that area rather than break new ground. As long as you remember that simple rule, you'll be fine. Mars retrograde won't be your downfall. So remember, it's just that area in your chart where it's retrograding is going to be, that's where you got to go back over some of the places where you were expending or maybe wasting your energy. All right. What else is pretty good? Oh, this was good. How determined and committed you are to achieve and how you approach obstacles are influenced by the masculine planet Mars. When balanced, you'll be confident to go after what you want, focusing on one thing at a time, capable of seeing a project or goal through to completion, supportive and protective of others. Now, when it's like out of balance, and then this is would happen probably more on the retrograde part. If you catch yourself becoming critical, aggressive, or trying to control situations, this is the other end of the spectrum for this planet. Now, on the other side of this is the Venus side. When you're more creative, empathic, and understanding, this is the feminine side of you, and it is related to the Venus planet. When balanced, you'll be connected to your intuition and trust it, open to others and working collaboratively. You'll be able to see the big picture and long-term vision, and you'll be nurturing and caring of and for others. When you're off kilter, feelings of powerlessness, oversensitivity, and codependency can manifest. All right, so this type of balance between these when Mars is retrograde happens. It's Mars's its energy. Instead of being forward, going confident after what you want, you tend to get more, you catch yourself in this kind of negative phase of Mars. Now, doesn't mean that it's got to be that way totally. If you're aware of it, you can catch yourself and you can see, you don't have to maybe become hypercritical, but you can become critical. Look at the house in your chart or any of the aspects that it's naturally making, with things in your natal chart, and be critical, not use like a good fine-tooth comb. It's like go over some of those areas and assess them and tighten up the weaknesses. Look where energy has been wasted or things are not needed or used, where energy has been put in wrong directions. Make those corrections, fix it to whatever you need, and then go to the next one. And then by that time, we'll be in January and Mars will start gaining forward again. And then we'll be heading into the spring. But this is a long time away right now. yeah, I mean, January, that's still in the middle of winter, but it will go direct, which will be heading toward spring. That's what I'm looking for, or heading toward that newer beginning time is what I'm saying. So it's a long way to spring, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's not spring, but that forward time is what I'm saying. Okay, where are we here? Uh, these are okay. I don't like generalize like these things, but I just was grabbing some stuff for us here. Now there's another one I want to share with you. Where is her article? I think it's bear with me. I think it's this one. Nope. Gotta go get it first. Mm-hmm. Nope. Where did that one go? Oh, darn. Don't tell me it's not here. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got to switch sides. Okay. There we go. Too many windows open. There it is. Sorry. Okay, I just had a lot of stuff here today. All right, I like this lady a lot, Jessica Davidson. She has some good blogs, and this was something she did here uh, in August. Mars retrograde in Gemini, some historical context. I want to review when the last time Mars was retrograde in Gemini. And it was, here, I'll just read to Harold. We'll scan through this article if you want to read it more, the whole thing, but you see it. Okay. Let's look at the last time it was there. It was at the end of 2027 into 2028 during the financial crisis of the credit crunch. This retrograde was slightly different because it started in Cancer and then it went back into Gemini, where now it's the whole thing is in Gemini. Interestingly, it also coincided with the start of Pluto moving into Capricorn. Like Pluto right now is like 26 degrees Capricorn since that time. Now in 22, 23, we have another Mars retrograde in Gemini, just as Pluto reaches the end of Capricorn and starts shifting into Aquarius. And it happens around the same time of the year. Humph. The previous Mars retrograde cycle in Gemini started in August 2007, same time like did here. It started in August, remember, when we went into Gemini, when Mars entered Gemini on, like, it was August 7th back then. It moved through the entire sign and entered Cancer on the 28th of September 2027 and stationed retrograde in Cancer on 15th November. Mars went retrograde into Gemini on the 31st of September 2007 and stationed direct 31st of January 08, and then re-entered Cancer on March of 08. Okay. Pluto entered Capricorn for the first time on the 26th of January 2008, just before Mars stationed direct. If you're not following all the astrobabble, that's okay, but this is just very interesting. All right, let me just go forward. So Mars in Gemini carried us across the threshold of Pluto in Capricorn in 2008 and will carry us out again and into Aquarius next year. It will be interesting to watch events over the coming months for echoes and historical rhymes. The last time the recession had already begun in 2007 with the subprime mortgage crisis, and it deepened in 2008 when the stock markets plunged into the Great Recession and the Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy later that year. The main culprit for the start of the economic crash in the 2007-8 was the Saturn-Neptune opposition, which ran from 06 to 7 with Saturn in Leo and Neptune in Aquarius. Saturn-Neptune popped the illusory bubble that anyone could own a house, and that bad debt hidden within the dodgy loans imploded. Neptune has a history of creating and popping bubbles, although any of the other planets can do this when teamed up with Saturn. And now, remember, we have Saturn and Mars kind of slowing way down, so they're kind of teaming up. So keep that in mind. Yeah. See that. What else was there? The Saturn-Neptune opposition ended when Saturn entered Virgo in September 07 and started moving toward an opposition in Uranus in Pisces. The Saturn-Uranus opposition became exact in 2008, and by the end of the following year, Saturn was square Pluto in the final quarter of the cycle that ended in 2020. Now, remember, we have the Saturn-Uranus square. Right over here, it was the opposition. And then you should also remember, if you looked at the financial astrology, we're going into a 14-year. When we looked at some of the moon nodes, we're going into a 14-year dip, a definite 7-year down to the bottom, and then a 7-year climb back up to where we're at now. Just saying. All right, this is the context for what is coming next. The bubble that popped in the crash of '08 was reinflated over the following years, and everyone carried on as if nothing had happened. Remember all that quantitative easing from the Obama group there? The globalists continued with their plans to consolidate their wealth and power and grew more complacent and arrogant by the day. But then along came the Uranus-Pluto square of 2012 to 2015, and pushback began as the alliances slowly shifted away from the West, and the post-war Bretton Woods power structure started to crack. Then in 2016, Trump and Brexit happened, and the globalists lost their collective shit. They accelerated their plans in 2020, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, because the system was falling apart. It looks like they're trying to outrun the entropy of the system collapsing, and if getting their ducks in a row faster will help them survive the coming tsunami. We are witnessing the end of the global monetary system and the end of Western imperialists, land grabs, and empire building. If only the globalists would realize it, the illusion and lies are crumbling and will accelerate when Mars stations retrograde in Gemini at the end of October. The chaos and disillusion will continue into 2023 and may not peak until the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries in 2025 and 2026. Now, we know also that Neptune in Aries brings on wars. Now, it could be, we could say things differently. It may not be rich elitists creating wars that little plebes have to fight. It could be the war of minds. It could be a war against being controlled. It could be putting that aggression into, opposing that and starting a whole new system, because, we have to start a whole new system parallel to all of this crap. All right, we have long struggle ahead as we transition into a new world on the other side of the collapse. For more on a lot of, okay, this is really good. She's got some good stuff. I would urge you to check her out. Let me go back up here. Jessica Davidson. All right, that was good. Now, anything else? Oh yeah, let's go back over to the. Oh no, I can't do it. Hold on. Gotta go here. There we go. Got to move my bar so I can hit the window here. Stop share, get this share. And it brings us back to the original screen here of these dates. All right, so now we're looking at these dates, and it's just interesting. Let me go down a little bit so we can see back in the past. Let me put the current one. Okay, so we have Gemini down here, and we go back, it was Gemini, and then the last retrograde Mars was Aries. You can see over here, September 9th, 2020, it says, retrograde Mars 28 Aries is when it went retrograde. And then the next one is where it turns direct. But I just want to go backward just to kind of show you the signs. So Aries, and then Aquarius, Sagittarius, Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini. See, when it went into Cancer here, that's when it went also into Gemini. This is what we're just talking about. So it's an interesting, these are kind of, they almost go, I don't know. It's just interesting that the signs, how they go back. I would have to look at this for a while and see if there's like a pattern to this. Just think it's kind of interesting. We can go back in time, but you can look here. Because my point is, you can look here and go see, like, if any of these degrees are close to, if you have a planet or an angle, your rising sign, or maybe your midheaven or something at any of these areas, either either when it goes retrograde or when it goes direct, go back and look at that time, like just for instance, like here, March 1st, I'll just pick one, 2014. Say you had something at 27 Libra. Um, Go back into March, into 2014 and go see what was going on in your life around that time, because that was, it went retrograde, like right on whatever it was that was there. And then when did it go to, when it went direct, where was it, what house, what was going on? So this is just some interesting things to see, your energy. Maybe you were going in a certain project. Maybe you were going in a project with a person. Maybe you had plans. Um, Maybe some sort of business. Did you start something with Mars retrograde before you knew better? Oh, goodness. Did you have a surgery, or did your mom or dad or somebody have a surgery when Mars went retrograde and it didn't go well? Things like that. And then also look forward and ahead, look ahead, of course, since we know those, to look ahead in the future and see if any Mars retrograde will affect anything that you have in the near future. Okay, that is a really cool thing to do. And with that, I think we're done with going through Mars. I hope that's giving you a little bit of data on how to handle that. And again, where it's going to be in your chart, there's lots of things you can look up. I don't want to bore you with all that, everybody's things, but if you have, Mars retrograding in your first house, it's going to definitely be more, you're going to feel it more with how people view you, your ego, how you present yourself to the world. If you have Mars retrograding in your seventh house, it's going to be more about relationships for you. If it's retrograding in your 10th house, it's going to be about your career. If it's retrograding in your third house, it may be short trips and brothers and sisters and communications or not communications, et cetera, et cetera. So look in your house, in your chart, because again, it may be two, houses. It may, because everybody's different. It may start in one and go into another. So it may be two houses for you. All right. Hope that helps. And we'll talk next time. Have a good Mars, a good Mars retro. Bye now.